You, I'm not. I still don't have my hands. I don't have my fingers yet. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. I'm lazy. I really don't want to connect them. It's so much work. It's so much work. It's not actually that much work. So today, welcome back to Daily Commentary. Are you sick of me yet? I'm sure you are. I'm sure you'd never be sick of me. Otherwise, you wouldn't have clicked on the video. I don't think this is too clickbaitable. I'll be honest. I don't think I'm gonna be able to clickbait this too much. I'm talking about horror games today. I'm actually not picking from one of the 14 comments on the video where I asked, hey, give me your commentary ideas. Give me your topics. Instead, someone like messaged me this on Discord. Hoko is one of our cute little Discord admins. They're known for being completely into piss. It's very cute. We call them the Arc Pisser. If you want to find out more about Hoko and his piss adventures, you can always come into our Discord server. 18 plus though. 18 plus. Don't be a child. If you're a child, just grow up. Okay. So basically, I don't know if you guys have for those of you guys that are on the YouTubes, you guys kind of just see the clips in my commentary videos and stuff like that. Sometimes, once in a while, you will see that I upload gameplay though, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, if you've taken a little bit of a note, but most of the time when I play video games, they're horror, at least when I post them on YouTube. So, of course, being the astute person that Hoko is, they asked me, do I like horror? Well, okay, here, let me grab the exact question actually. Let's see. Let me scroll up a little bit. Okay. So they said, surprised about this was about that topic. Okay, how did I get into watching horror games / playing them myself? What do you like about them the most? You know, mention some of my favorites, rant about that overall, since horror games is a decent chunk about your content. So there's a few things. So I've always been a very big fan of horror. I'd watch creepypastas when I was much younger. I'd be a whole part of the whole Jeff the Killer stuff. I loved my creepypastas when I was in like middle school. And then that kind of transformed into me watching Markiplier, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, and watching their horror gameplays, their horror videos. And so I kept on going with that trend. I always really liked one of the things that I really liked about horror and horror games in general was the fact that a lot of the times horror is very story driven. I also really like Edge. I've always enjoyed Edge, and I liked how the stories often there's always a lot of different endings to the story, but I feel like a lot of the horrors that I grew up on didn't always have good endings. They were always like, they made you think about them for a very long time after you watched them. Because of course I was watching the video games, I wasn't playing them. I was watching, you know, like whenever I was playing, or when I was watching a horror video, like Witch's House or Mad Bother, PewDiePie playing it, I would be watching it on my phone, and I'd have my hand up, pressed like here. Actually, let me connect my hands for you. Let me see if I could show you what I mean by this. I would basically have, I was like this. Like I would just have my god. Oh, come on. Wait, hold on. It's the wrong way. Okay. So I would just basically have my hand out like this. So I would be covering. I'd be covering this space. So I would basically not be able to see the game itself. I would only be watching the webcam that was in the corner of the screen. So I'd just be watching on my phone as a little scared bun when Markiplier was playing like FNAF or PewDiePie was playing the Crooked Man, and I would just like do this, and then once in a while I'll take it down and I'll peek to see if it's not anything scary, and then I'll go back and try to just watch the reaction and listen to what was happening. And that's kind of what I did. That was during my, probably, I would say my middle school age as well. And then from there I started getting into anime editing, and some of the animes that I really enjoyed a lot were, and they ended up being stuff like Corpse Party and Higurashi When They Cry. and other I know Shiki was another good one. There was basically a bunch of different horror anime. I was always intrigued by horror stories and stuff like that, and I felt like stories that were horror were often told very, very well and had such good lore. I feel like most horror games just had so much lore to them, and I was always a sucker for storytelling lore. And so like when you think about a game like okay, maybe not Apex, like CS:GO, it's like it's just a shooter game, you know, you just shoot. You know, there's other games where it's just like the lore is never the main focus. Like for example, Valorant, League of Legends, Apex. Like Apex, there's lore, there's a bunch of lore, but people, the mass majority of people that play Apex don't know about the lore of Apex. For League of Legends, like the lore is huge with League of Legends. There's such good lore with League of Legends, but that's not why people play the game. That's not why people get into the game most of the time. The same thing goes for Valorant. There's actually a bunch of lore in Valorant, but most of the people that play Valorant, the vast majority of Valorant players play it just because it's a competitive shooter game that's very popular. So the thing about horror games is a lot of the times when you're getting into a horror game and you're playing the horror game, especially if it's something like an RPG Maker horror game, a lot of the times you're not just playing it for the horror aspect, but you're playing it because you know it tells a good story. Because obviously you're not playing it for the graphics. Obviously you're not playing it because you enjoy playing horror games. You know, like you're playing it because it has a really good story, which is supposed to overcome the shitty RPG Maker pixels on the screen. You know, that's one of the, and nowadays you know, we have like Layers of Fear and other kind of horror games that look good and tell a good story, like Visage and stuff like that. But telling, you know, going back to the main point is, so that's how I got into watching horror videos. See, I was always a horror fan, you know, I was always a fan of tragedy and things not being exactly black and white, which is kind of how I made Shiri. I made Shiri not exactly a hero, not exactly a villain, not exactly an antagonist. I made it so they are very morally gray. You can see them as good, you can see them as bad, you can see them as scary, you can see them as evil, you can see them as like a horror character, you know? I definitely have, I don't have anything that's like gory on like the art, but I do have a few pieces that are like very, very intimidating, whether it be holding a knife or like, you know, I even have a few ASMRs where I'm like, I stab the listener in their thigh as they try to crawl away. My yandere trope is something that I go into a lot, where it's like, it's kind of scary, you know? And a lot of my story does actually have horror elements to it. So I've always been a big fan of horror. I still to this day like watch, you know, like murder documentaries and stuff like that, which can be like unsettling to a lot of people and very edgy to another, you know, a lot of people. Some things that like people just don't want to think about ever. And like I've always enjoyed that content. I still to this day watch people like John Wolfe, who's a horror game like creator. I watch Markiplier still. I kind of stopped the Jacksepticeye because they got a little loud. And PewDiePie doesn't really make content anymore, and if he does, then I don't watch it. So but there still are, like, I'll still watch horror games. A lot of the times nowadays what I'll find myself doing is I'll see a horror game and think, oh, this would be good to stream it. Man, that means that I can't watch it, which kind of sucks, because now we trend into nowadays where I now have content brain. It's a disease. It's basically, I can't watch a video if I think it's going to be good content, because I got to do that content for myself. For example, I know that Poppy Playtime is coming out soon. I can't watch any people play Poppy Playtime. I have to play it for myself, stream it and record it, because I know it's going to go good. Same thing if a new FNAF game comes out. I'm not going to be able to watch it myself. If there's a new intriguing horror game that I see, I'll see John Wolfe play it, and I won't be able to watch it myself, because now I know, okay, there's this new horror game that just came out. I have to play it before I watch it, because I want to give my genuine reaction on stream. And so now I have that content brain. I never enjoyed playing horror games, and fun fact, that has never changed. I have grown a lot thicker skin though since then. Before, if you scroll down to some of my first videos and like first videos on this channel, you'll see that, for example, the Don't Hide game, for a good like 30 minutes, I just straight up couldn't move because I was so scared. I have gotten a lot better at handling horror games, and I've become a lot more desensitized to such like jump scares and stuff like that, but there still is that original dread. I would never ever play a horror game if I was just playing it by myself, or if I was just playing it like, I wouldn't just play it for my own personal pleasure. The only reason why I play horror games is because I know they perform well, and I know people like seeing reactions out of me, because I'm the same way. I watch a lot of horror content because I want to see how people react. I want to see people get scared. I want to see people, it is just good content. So while I do not personally like playing horror games, I enjoy consuming them. I really enjoy consuming them. I appreciate the art form. I appreciate the storytelling that goes into almost every single horror game. You know, some of them obviously not too much, not too much lore going on. Sometimes they just go for shock value. Sometimes they have no story behind them. But I appreciate the content. I appreciate it. I like consuming it. I do not like playing it myself. But that also, you know, that's also why it's good to stream, because, you know, you get a very reaction out of the streamer and stuff like that. So I don't really like horror games all that much, but I do like horror games, and that's the TLDR version of it. Now if we're gonna go over to like some of my favorites, so like, if we're talking about horror games in general, I'll probably go through like 3 different eras of Shuribun. Back in the day, the horror games that I think I liked the most back when I was like in middle school, was probably, I never actually saw the gameplay of Corpse Party. I only watched the anime, which I feel like a lot of people who played the game would despise me for, because I know it has like a cult classic, and that the anime didn't do it justice. But I would say the ones that I think the one horror game that had the most impact on me is the Crooked Man. I remember having nightmares of the Crooked Man, and just how much like the story nowadays, I don't think the story holds up as much as it used to. But when I was a kid, when I was a little small bun, a young bun, if I may, it really got to me. And the big twist at the end that the Crooked Man was the person that you're playing as, and it was how he saw himself, had a huge impact on me. And I thought the Crooked... Okay, so fun fact, I didn't understand that it was crooked. I thought it was crooked. I thought it was the Crooked Man. I didn't realize it was crooked as in crooked neck. It was actually it was crooked. Which I didn't understand as a kid, because I didn't understand that, you know, I only like I sounded out words. I didn't know, you know, like, because technically crooked, when like it's not spelled the way that it sounds. Thank you, English language. I sounded it out as crooked, not crooked. Anyway, either way, the story really got to me. It was terrifying imagery. Even though it was RPG Maker, there was still like art that at the time was really scary. And I think that's the horror game that really stood out to me the most. That's the one that, like, as a kid, I have memories of that, or when I was a kid, like I still have memories from that time. And like, so that one's kind of always had just a place in my heart. Then later on, the first horror game that I played, I would say the first one was definitely FNAF. That was the first horror game that I actually played. And I didn't even get, I don't even think I got it to night 2. I think I got to night 2 and then I stopped. Basically, the way that I won was I just left night 1 running, because I was too scared to look. And so I was never able to beat night 2 because it was too scary for me. I just couldn't play it anymore. And this was probably the middle school era, like 6th grade, 7th grade. It was FNAF 1. FNAF 1 came out and FNAF 2 was coming out soon. So FNAF 1 was like the new exciting thing on the block, and I paid $5 to buy it. I was super excited. And I know that all of the kids were like talking about it at school, and I was like, oh, I want to try it. And it was just too scary for me. I could not handle it. I was not able to. And then of course, if like FNAF 2 ended up coming out, and then everyone got it on phones, and we were all going over like how we're playing it on, we're playing it on like phones and stuff. And I don't think I had a phone at that time. Very sad. But I still remember people like, it was just you were the coolest kid if you had FNAF 2 on your phone, you were able to play it. After that point, I think the next big horror game that I played in my era that had an impact on me was Doki Doki Literature Club when that first came out. I had some friends trick me into playing it, and I had no idea what I was doing or anything like that. And I was actually planning on recording it because this is when I was getting more, this was in high school when I was getting more into I want to make videos because, I was a video editor. So I was funny at times. So I had the potential to create stuff, I have a few, like, honestly, I have a few funny videos that like I made back in my time that I still think kind of stand up. I think all of my class projects that I did for like astronomy were like top tier. Sure, some of the jokes have aged, like as all would, but I think my comedy still holds up. Anyway, so I had OBS open and I was streaming it to the Discord, like my old like personal Discord with like a few friends, and they were, I got through it and I knew something was up, but I didn't know what was gonna happen. I knew like people wouldn't care that I played this game like as much as they did if something didn't happen. And so I kind of had to worry that the horror, I mean, I didn't know it was a horror. I felt like something bad was going to happen to one of the characters. And so there was this part where I thought a character was going to game end themselves. I thought Sayori was going to game end themselves, at the old switcheroo, and then as I was like going in and I walked into the room where I thought it was going to happen, she was fine. So that made my relief go through. I knew that everything was going to be okay and that it's fine. It's not actually that kind of game. It just gave me the scare. And then like a few scenes later, I mean, and there's no way you guys haven't seen Doki Doki by now. Yeah, she ended up dying, and that left such a heavy impact on me. Especially because I really like Sayori, and she was, that was one of the times where I like genuinely, there's like two moments that like media has gotten me like genuinely depressed. There were two things. It was Doki Doki Literature Club made me depressed for like a week, and No Game No Life, the 6th book, got me really depressed. It's basically the movie. That's why I refuse to watch the No Game No Life movie, because I know that it would depress me because I read the book and I don't want to relive that experience. And so basically, that left the profound expense. Like that one's a little bit horror, but like the horror elements were more of the real world aspects of it. From beyond that part, I think another one that had a very big impact on me was Angels of Death. That was a very good horror game. It was a horror game that actually made me get into the manga, and the anime was coming out, and it was the first time I played a game before the anime came out, and then I was so excited for the anime because I played the game. So it was like, this is something that I knew, I experienced, I did this, I know this part, I played this in the game, it was really cool. It's really cool seeing it happen because like I played the game, so it's like I know what's gonna happen. And then when it happened, I was like, I remember doing that. That was me, And now we get into this era of horror where it is the Shiribun, the VTuber era, where I am now old and mature and can actually handle horror games. My favorite horror game of this like era of me playing as a VTuber, out of all of the horror games that I've played, I would say my favorite horror game, I would say the one that had the biggest impact on me. There's two that come to mind. There's two like horror games that flash in my mind when I think of when I was a VTuber. Maybe 3. I would say 3. Hide. No, is it just Hide? What is it called? What is it? It Steals. It Steals is the name of the game. I haven't been using my hands at all. I have my hands and I haven't even been using them. What a fool I am. What a fool I am. So there's a game called It Steals. And basically like it was the game that I couldn't move. It was so terrifying. I think even to this day I wouldn't be able to play it very well because I absolutely despise. Okay, there's 4 games I like. There's 4 games that really stick out to me. I'm just gonna rapid fire them and I'm gonna tell you why they're my favorite games of this era. So we have Chilla's art game. It was the closing shift where you were a little bunrista. I still remember there's this one amazing scare that happens where it's just a woman that has a baby and she's just going through the scroller, and it's the most cheap jump scare ever, but it's great. I really enjoyed the gameplay aspect of it where you're just you're a little barista and you're making drinks and stuff. That was super fun. The horror elements were great. It popped off. It was a good video, and it was just a good game to make videos on. Another one was Poppy Playtime. Poppy Playtime was one of my biggest videos. That is a gaming video, obviously. And honestly, that was like one of the only TikToks of mine that ever did well. I got like 10,000 views. Was a Poppy Playtime clip from my Poppy Playtime stream. So it has a place in my heart. Although Poppy Playtime is kind of mid, I don't really care about it too much. I appreciate what it's given me, kind of, and then there is the It Steals. That is a very terrifying game. It is very scary. I think it is the scariest game that I played. It's actually made by the same people who made Lethal Company, and by the way, the person who made Lethal Company is a furry, by the way, and their profile picture is the cutest thing I've ever seen. They're an absolute bean. They're very cute. And then the final horror game. What was the final horror game? I don't know. God, I swear I had another one. Oh, Visage. I never beat Visage, but it was the hardest horror game that I ever played and probably one of the scariest. It was very good though. I really liked it. It was insanely difficult and one of the more higher quality horror games that I played. And I believe it was the only horror game that actually got 2 parts. I could have had more parts. There was a bunch of funny moments that came from it too, and I don't know, it's just one of the starter horror games that I played back when I was like beginning as a VTuber, so it holds a nice place in my heart because it's one of the first ones that I did play. And yeah, so that's my opinions on horror games. Those were my favorite horror games across all of the eras of the bun. That's how I got into horror. That's how that's why I make horror videos. That's why most of the gameplays that I do are of horror. And like I consider myself almost a horror content creator, even though on this channel you don't really get to see it, but on the Shuribun ASMR channel I do a lot of Yandere ASMR, and I do have a lot of horror ASMRs there as well. So I do consider myself a little bit of a horror creator, even if most of what you see is just the funny cutesy clips or sus or schizo. That's why you see some of the schizo edits, the schizo posts where it's like, the clips where I seem insane. It's because like I'm supposed to be a little unhinged. I'm supposed to be a little spooky. Like that's a part of my lore is being scary. Like I do have a lot of horror elements in my story, which I'm going to be talking more about. We're of course going to go more into the lore soon. Daily commentary videos. You'll eventually get a little bit of everything, of course. But that's how I got into horror. That's how I started watching horror. What I feel about horror, spoiler alert, I don't actually like playing horror because it's scary. It's basically, I'm just content brained and I've always liked horror content, so it kind of landed hand in hand. And you don't see gameplay too often on this channel just because it's like it doesn't perform the best, which is a little sad. But of course, whenever new horror games will come out, like for example, there's a bunch of Garden of Banban videos here. There's Poppy Playtime videos on this channel. There's a lot of Chilla art game on this channel. So even if you don't click on it, even if you don't see it, it does exist on the channel. You just have to like actually click on it if it appears in your recommended, YouTube doesn't like pushing videos that aren't what you typically consume. So that's why I even split up this channel from the ASMR channel, because you don't want to have like differing themes in channels, because YouTube doesn't like that. Anyway, that's the video. That's it. That's my thoughts on horror games. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, Hoko, for the request to talk about this. I'm of course going to be talking more about, like the people that did the comments. if you have any more questions or any topics, don't for like I look at the comments, so you can of course comment on this video too, and I if it's an interesting enough topic, I will end up talking about it. If you liked the video, make sure to like it. If you don't like it, I'll stab you, I'll kill you, I'll murder you. And please leave an algorithmic comment down below. I would appreciate it very, very deeply. And I will see you again tomorrow with more daily content. Not only is it daily, it's 3 times a day now. You get 2 clips in the daily commentary. You guys are being spoiled. I also look very small in this video because I didn't lift myself up because I'm really lazy. So like I don't have my step stool for once. I don't have my step stool. Normally I have my step stool. I don't have it this time. Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.